Welcome to the 𝘀𝗂𝗍 podcast series powered by Fortinus events. This is the global stage where CX, omnichannel, loyalty, and retention leaders unite to shape the future of customer experience. Join the conversation as CX pioneers and experts share bold strategies shaping the world of CX forward.
Hi, welcome to the Fortinus Events Global Podcast Series, where we bring together industry leaders who are shaping the future of customer experience, digital innovation, and business transformation across industries. I'm your host, 𝘆𝗫𝗂𝗿, and today we're joined by an accomplished marketing leader who has spent more than 2 decades building impactful brands and driving growth across multiple sectors in Indonesia. In today's episode, we have Fibriyani Elastria, the Chief Marketing Officer at Halodoc. So, Phoebe, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you like to give a brief introduction of yourself?
Thank you. Hi, 𝘆𝗫𝗂𝗿, and hi, everybody. My name is Fibri. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer in Halodoc. I'll also be speaking in the second annual Global CX Summit in Indonesia. And looking forward to see you there, and maybe we can exchange some thoughts.
Okay. February, would you mind to share a bit of what you do and your experience in this industry? Yes.
Okay. So I think I've been in marketing industry for more than 2 decades, as you mentioned, around 23 years so far. And I think my career has been quite varied in terms of industry. So, for example, I've been in tech industry in the last 10 years. Started with Google as the head of consumer marketing as well as brand reputation. And then I moved to the startup, which is 𝗀𝗵𝗿𝗄𝗍, which is the e-finance under Goto Group. Then I also moved to Pinhome, which is the property tech. And now I'm in Halodoc, which is the health tech. That was the last 10 years only, right? Before that, I was, I think my most career was spent in 2 main industries, which is consumer goods. That ranged from, I think I started in Nestle, Indonesia. Then I think I spent most of my FMCG career in Procter & Gamble, from the local marketing organization up to the regional, we call it back then Global Business Unit. And then I also moved to Coca-Cola, Indonesia. And I also spent another range of period of time in financial industry, mainly in insurance with AXA Mandiri as well as Sequis Life. So more or less, that's like the gist of my career. In between, there are also even smaller industries that I was in. For example, like there's a brief stint where I was in the education industry with Sampurna School Education for like a little bit less than a year. And my first early 3 years working, I actually spent it in automotive industry with Astra International. So yeah, that's my overall career.
That's very impressive background, Fibri. So you have jumped
busy.
from this one industry to another industries. That's very impressive.
Back then, they call it like a job hopper, and it was actually not really preferred during my younger years. But I think in the bigger picture, right, what really made me took those decisions and that journey, after I now look back and connect the dots, I think there are some sort of like silver lining that helped me to make my decision. I think one, I want to make sure when I move is because I run towards something I am excited about instead of like running away from something. And whenever I leave, I need to make sure I leave with a good name, a good reputation, and even a good legacy, if that makes sense, right? And then the second one is also because I think at the end of the day, I believe marketing is really, the kind of muscles that you can apply across different type of industry services, as long as you are able to empathize with the customers or the users that you are trying to serve, right? Then the product can be different, the services can be different, but I think that empathy is the one that really make a marketing resonates with their target audience.
Yeah. So it's very impressive with your background, Phoebe. So yeah, that who says that women cannot achieve all of that, right? So yes, February with International Women's Day recently celebrated, our conversation today is also a great opportunity to reflect on leadership, purpose-driven marketing, and empowering the next generation of women in business. So February, let's jump in the conversation.
Let's go.
All right.
Happy International Women's
Let's
Day to
go.
you.
Okay, Fibri, so you have built an impressive career spanning more than 2 decades across fintech, proptech, and FMCG, like you said before. So, what are the key lessons that have shaped your approach to building impactful marketing strategies in Indonesia's evolving digital landscape?
So yeah, as I mentioned, my career has been like across different industries, right? But I think I was blessed enough to really have FMCG as one of my early marketing career, because I think that's really where I understand and build the real muscles of what it means being a marketer. Especially, I think I learned the biggest lesson when I was in Procter& and Gamble. I think at that time, even until today, they are pretty much well known as, having the real marketing muscles, if that makes sense, right? So from my experience in P&G, I learned certain marketing framework that I still use even until today. And along my journey, I also learned a few other things that then I sort of like inject into that framework, that I make it my own. So I can share what that framework is. For example, that framework consists of like 5 steps, right? The first step is really about starting with why. Because I think a lot of times we know what the kind of product or services that we are selling or we market. However, we don't really always know like the reason of our existence as a company or even as a brand, right? So understanding that why will be the soul of the kind of marketing strategy that we will create, and that should be consistent for a long term, right? So I think that's really the foundation that needs to be have as the first step. The second step, which also sometimes marketers forget, is to assess the landscape. So it's not just about selling your product or service and say like we are really good at this and that, but understand, do you have a differentiating factors? Like where are you stand amidst all the other competitions out there that's probably also offering something similar? Or then by assessing your competitions, then you realize, oh, actually what we have is actually very unique and different. Then you have even more confidence, right? So that's the second step. Then the third step, which is superbly critical, is understanding your who, meaning that who is your target audience, the people that you know you want to serve. And understanding them is not just about understanding their profile, like demographically, right? But understanding their insights. For example, like what kind of barrier, what kind of pain points these people actually have when it comes to the kind of thing that you want to solve, right? And what kind of sense of fulfillment or achievement that will be matter for them, will be important, will be relevant for them. Hence, this is probably the area that you want to dial up even more, for example, right? Then with that, you understand whether your kind of solution actually makes a difference or not, or you want to iterate or sharpen it even further, right? So the who is the most critical part of the whole framework, the way I look at it. And a lot of ways, I think marketer then jump to the last step, which I'm going to get to it later. But then let me move on to the fourth step, which is the what, which is what kind of brand positioning then you want to stand for, right? What do you want to stand in the heart and in the mind of your customers or your users? So it's not just about understanding your point of parity with the competitors based on the assessment, but also understanding where do you have a differentiating factors. Hence, then you can really give that very clear added value when you connect with what your users really needs, with the who that you already understand the insights deeper, right? Then the last step, which a lot of marketers that I've met throughout my career jump directly into, which is the how. The how then it's becoming like, what is the strategy in terms of then what kind of channel that you want to use, and then what kind of communication idea, what kind of creative, all of those things, right? So, and there's so many things. It's not just about, the kind of activities that are paid, like performance marketing or like social media with KOL, for example. But even like there's a lot of organic levers that sometimes being overlooked. For example, like in-app kind of activities, right? Things that are organic, your SEO and content, for example. And nowadays it's becoming like AIO, for example, all of those things. So these are like the framework that has been helping me in creating marketing strategies, and I'm still using it. And I kind of like cascade it down to my team whenever I have my role, right? But throughout those journeys, I think what I also observed, there are a lot of common pitfalls. For example, a lot of marketers fall in love with the solution, be it the product or the service, and maybe the kind of USPs, right? Like the kind of unique selling proposition, and they're like busy communicating that, but they forgot to focus on the more important part, which is being obsessed with the users or the problems to solve itself. Because then we will realize whether our solution actually makes sense, actually strong enough or not. And the kind of implications to that is sometimes then the way we communicate can be seen as very technical, for example, while your user is probably like moms, then being very technical doesn't help, right? Or then the way you communicate becomes irrelevant. It doesn't resonate with them because you don't really understand who your target audience is, for example, right? So that's the first common pitfall. The other common pitfall is you look at data, numbers, but then you forget to really digest what the data actually is saying. What's the story behind this data? What are the insights? What are the human story behind it? Because again, the job of a marketer is to translate those data, making it into insights. Then it becomes a strategy that turns into execution. So just looking at data, showing nice tables and all these numbers says nothing if you don't know what's the story behind, right? And then I think the last common pitfall I see is when people think about marketing, then they think about just simply the one that is paid activities, as I mentioned, or then promotion. While there's so much more in marketing that are like making everything becomes much more impactful if you sort of like orchestrate it and fine tune it accordingly together.
Mhm. That's impressive. Fibri, I'm going to take note of that as a marketer myself.
Thank you.
Yes, that's a great framework that you have, Fibri. Thank you so much for that. All right, so moving on to the second question. As a CMO yourself, how do you balance driving business growth and service adoption while ensuring the brand remains deeply connected to consumers, customer needs, and trust, especially in digital healthcare?
Yeah. Another key observations throughout my 10 years in tech industry, right? I think especially startup, there was a tendency to start with the product, then drive the growth first, which means in a lot of times, then doing it through promotions before you actually build the brand, let alone building the trust, right? Then when you try to start building the brand, you already sort of like owning the attributes of having a lot of promotions, for example. Then it becomes a bit more challenging for you to bring the brand itself beyond just a promotion. I think in the last 2 to 3 years, maybe that part is becoming less and less because people started to understand that brand needs to also come along together as the growth itself. And I think, given the economic situation, then a lot of companies try to really make the most out of the budget itself, right? Now, when it comes to healthcare, I think definitely the trust should be the starting point for growth. So in other words, I think brand trust should be the engine of growth. What do I mean by that? I think when users trust us, when users make decision to transact with us when it comes to their health matter, their well-being, it means they put their trust in our hand. And that is such a big, big responsibility, right? And my job as marketer is not only to sort of like drive people to download, drive people to transact, but also to make sure in every single interactions, then they will be exposed to the most reliable kind of experience, the safest kind of experience, for example, that will then make that trust becomes even stronger. Hence, they will come back even more without us trying to allure them with sort of like promotion and so on and so forth. It becomes organic growth, right? So it needs to be hand in hand, but the trust is actually the foundation itself. Now, how do marketing can make sure every interactions becomes sort of like a very good experience? Because I think there are so many things that is beyond our control, you might think, right? Especially when it comes to the platform. Marketers are not the one who actually built the product, for example. Marketers are not the one who handle the customer service, for example. But what I believe is, which is I believe is very important pillar as being a marketer, marketers should be the voice of the users. What that means is, once we understand the who, as I mentioned in my first framework, then you understand the insights, and you should spend time to also always give yourself time to update that understanding, and then you voice that out to the respective team within the company itself. For example, the kind of feature that might be needed, or the kind of improvement or fine-tunement that is required to make sure the experience becomes much better, for example, or even help the service team to also design the journey itself to make sure like it becomes very seamless, for example, or even the way the customer service handle the complaints, because we probably have these insights about what is the underlying reasons of a lot of people complain about this specific topic, for example, because you are able to see and connect the dots, because you understand the user's point of view, but also you understand the internal point of view, right? Then you connect the dots and you help to influence this decision from all these different teams. Hence, with that, then I think naturally, ideally, then users don't need to be, again, allured with all of this sort of like a promotion and whatnot to use your product, because to begin with, it is already designed to meet their needs. It is communicated according to the way that it is relevant and resonates with them, and it delivers the kind of experience that marketers promise in their communications. Then the cycle should repeat. So that's probably my point of view in how we try to create the balance.
I understand. Okay. I learned one or two from you today.
I'm glad.
From that response alone, I learned one or two from you. Thank you, Fibri. All right. So move on to the next question. So Halodoc plays an important role in expanding access to healthcare across Indonesia. From a marketing leadership perspective, how do you translate that purpose into campaigns that genuinely resonate with communities?
So from that question, I hear two keywords. One is purpose, and second is campaign, right? Then the question is how that this purpose being translated into campaign. So for Halodoc itself, I think this goes back to our start with why. Our mission is really to simplify the access to healthcare through technology. So that's our purpose. And that has been the same since 10 years ago when we first being established until today. And that becomes the soul of everything that we do, right? Now it sounds like it's a big, big dream and it's a big word, right? How do you translate that into campaign that is easily digested as well as resonate with our target audience? Now, this is where the other framework, the other steps in the framework also comes in. So when we look at our who, we look at our data, then we understand, most of our users are actually like female that has families, because they take care of these people in the family in terms of the healthcare. So usually they have children, they have husband, sometimes even they are also the caregiver of their parents, for example, right? The elderly. So we call them the wellness warrior. Now, then we look at the kind of insights related to this audience. Like, for example, they spend 70% of their time managing the healthcare for their family. And most of that time is really for the family members and very much less for themselves. So they actually deprioritize their own health needs because they want to fulfill the responsibilities first. And then a lot of times, because these women also juggle with many other things, as you probably also know, right? Like women has a lot of other roles in their life, like maybe they also the one who manage all the domestic matters at home. Maybe they also still work and have a job out there, or they also manage their own business and they take care of like their other families, all of those things, right? So they juggle with a lot of things. Hence, like time becomes very scarce for them, right? And a lot of times, every now and then, they may drop some balls. So they live with guilt because they feel like I haven't been able to give my best to my family, the people that I should be taking care of, and the people that I should take, the people that I care about the most, right? So despite spending most of their time taking care of their beloved ones, still they live with a lot of guilt and doubt whether they're actually doing their best or not. So the insights, we turn that into a campaign. We call it Imperfect Mom, because a lot of times in this women's mind, they are imperfect as a mom, imperfect as the mother and the wife, or even the daughter that is taking care of their parents, for example. But what we're trying to say, hey, you have done your best and it's a lot to take care of and it's a lot to do. Let us help you to make it easier when it comes to managing the healthcare. And you should know those people that you take care of, those people who loves you, they don't see you as imperfect. They see you as enough. They see you as perfect. So we also play with the word itself, like from imperfect, then it turns into I'm perfect mom, right? So they should know, like, okay, with Halodoc, I am heard, I am understood, and I don't have to feel like I always fail because actually I've done my best and that is enough, right? And they are the hero of the story. And Halodoc is the enabler that supports them in making their healthcare needs becomes a lot easier to manage. So that's the example.
That's very beautiful. I
Thank you.
love that. Women always carry all those things, but they can do a lot at one time, but they're still as still tough as they are, and they can do everything. We can do anything that we want.
Yeah. You
Right.
have kids?
I'm just married.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
but you probably already started to take care of your husband's health needs,
Yes.
right? And then once you have kids, it will multiply it a lot more, for example. Well, sorry, if I just may add, right? It was about the campaign itself, but then also not only that, as I mentioned, then marketing can also influence the product decision, the product design itself. So, for example, I'm very happy and excited to share, like, yesterday, in the spirit of celebrating International Women's Day, we also launched our newest feature, which we call Family Care, because usually these women, they need to connect the dots on their own to understand that, oh, Halodoc actually has all the services I need to take care of my family's health better. Oh, we have consultation for doctors, we have pharma delivery, we have home care when you need to get like injection, vaccine at home, booster at home, or even lab tests at home. We also have like a weight management clinic with HaloFit. We also have like skin digital clinic with HaloSkin, and so on and so forth, right? But they need to think for themselves and connect the dots. Now we create this family care as a hub when they can connect all different profiles into this platform. Then they will have a personalized services that will be relevant for each different people in the family that they take care of. So it's much easier for them to manage. So this is part of how we influence the decision of the product design as well.
So the product that you are offering to them, it's not only for the person, the people that they love, it's also for themselves, for them to pamper themselves, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a great one, Fibri. All right. Okay, moving on, Fibri.
Sure.
So yes, with International Women's Day recently celebrated, which was yesterday. So what has your journey as a female leader taught you about resilience, confidence, and creating impact for the next generation?
So there are several words there, right? Resilience, confidence, and I would
And
say
impact.
impact/influence in that sense. So maybe I'll try to unpack one by one. Resilience. Resilience is like this ability to bounce back, this ability to kind of like fight back and stay consistent, right? And it sounds like, it can sound like a struggle in a way, right? So this reminds me of one of the book that I read and I felt very inspiring. It's called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. There's this one line that hit me deeply. It says, suffering in and on its own is meaningless. You give suffering a meaning by the way you respond to it. So being resilient without a purpose can also be meaningless because it's just another form of struggle. So I think the most important thing to be resilient is to start with a purpose. Start with understanding why your work or whatever that you're trying to do matters. Hence, whatever adversities you have to deal with along the way, you look at this as challenge, but you are willing to go above and beyond to fight because it is a battle worth fighting for because you see the bigger picture, why it matters. Then you approach it with a warrior mindset. And if you pass through it, then you see it as a real victory. And you're proud of all the scars you earn throughout the journey. Compared to being resilient for the sake of, I just have to push through without really knowing the bigger picture and what you're trying to achieve and why it matters, then you may end up with a victim mentality. Then those scars will just felt like, yeah, life is tough. Life is unfair. And that sucks, you know? So that's resilience. Now, confidence. I think for a lot of female, we, especially probably the high achiever ones, right? We tend to overthink. We tend to underestimate our capabilities. We want to make sure we are fully ready before we step up to lean into, let's say, opportunity or challenge that comes our way. So the way I look at it, I would say confidence will be built by doing, not waiting for you to be fully ready. Embrace it, but I completely understand because I've been there too, where sometimes you don't feel like you're actually ready. And when you try to fake it, then you are feeling just like an imposter, for example. So the other part of building confidence for me is to really know your value, know what you are able to bring into the table, even though you may not know everything, you may not have everything figured out. For example, you are given this opportunity to expand your scope or your role, for example, but you were not sure, like, I never done this part before, for example, right? Can I succeed? So if you don't have that confidence to embrace, then you may just pass because you are driven by the fear of failure instead of the possibility of success, for example. Now, part of having the confidence is actually having the humility to know where your gap is and ask for help. But not just because you want somebody else to do it for you, but because you want to understand the essence, you want to understand how it's done, but with the kind of added value you will bring into the table, you can then connect the dots. After you have those informations, after you're getting that learning period and the support you need, then you can show your full values because it always takes time for females. No, I think it always takes time for everyone to be able to adapt into something, right? But how long does it take? That's another thing. But I think what matters is when opportunity comes, have that courage to show up and to rise up and embrace the challenge and have the humility to seek for help when it's needed, but at the end, deliver the value, right? So that's on confidence. Now, the other thing was about impact or influence, right? I think having been in the industry for more than 20 years and being a people leader for, I think, more than 1 decade, for sure, I would say leadership is not just about personal achievements, right? You bring influence and impact when you are able to craft space for others to grow. You bring more impact when you lift others to be able to also unleash their utmost potential. So impact will happen when you are able to craft that path and multiplies that power in many more people. So I think in summary, I would say I think this is the kind of values that I always also tell my team. I would say that rise up, show up, and lift others, because at the end, this younger generation, they don't need you to be perfect, but they need you to be visible. They need you to be present, to show you the rope. And even better, if you are able to be vulnerable enough to show, to admit when you are facing difficulties, when you navigate issues, but also show them how you get through it. Then they know it's human. Like even leaders have their own struggle, but what matters is they know and they show how they are able to get out of that, bounce back, show that resilience, build that confidence, and inspire others along the way, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful conclusion, Fibriyani, for this question. So yeah, I really love that how you connect all the dots and everything, just to be a strong woman and to be resilient, give impact to others and to influence others. That's very beautiful. All right, Fibriyani, last but not least, as both a senior executive and a mother yourself, how do you approach leadership and personal growth? And what advice would you share with inspiring women leaders who want to build both successful careers and meaningful lives?
Leadership and motherhood. Yeah, so definitely it's been a very interesting, long-winded journey, but also superbly fulfilling, at least for me, right? The way I look at it is actually, this is funny because just yesterday I repost this short video from Simon Sinek, and I think the kind of caption that I put is, I said, I believe being a people leader and being a parent has a lot of similarities. So let me tell you why. Because I think a lot of times being parents, you don't realize that your kids are watching you, right? So what you tell them versus what you actually show in your day-to-day, they take it more and absorb it more, the one that you actually do, right? It's the same thing with your team, the people that you lead. So you need to really make sure you don't just walk the talk, but you actually embed that, preach into your day-to-day leadership styles, I would say, right? So it's a lot of responsibilities to be both people leaders and parents. Hence, don't be afraid to be parents, because it helps you to sharpen your leadership skill, the way I look at it. Or the other way around, vice versa, right? The other thing about the similarities of being people leader and a mother is you should know that being a people leader is not always about always trying to be encouraging, to be nurturing, to say yes all the time. I think a lot of early managers also fell into this pitfall because they thought, oh, I need to be liked. Then I need to always be supportive. Then I should not challenge that much, for example. I should not tell them when they started to get off track. But imagine if you, being a parent, that way, you always say yes to your kids. Well, you know, there are a lot of things that they still don't know any better, for example, and it's your job as parents to teach them, right? So being a people leader as well as being a mom, then you learn not to only nurture them, celebrate their wins, being encouraging and whatnot, but also you need to learn how to do tough love when it's necessary. Or in my word, I call it like I'm slapping you with love because something needs to be fixed, for example. But I focus more on the problem, not on the person, meaning like it shouldn't be in a way that is shaming, but it's being expressed in a way that is helping, even though it's probably like not that easy to hear, but they should know, they should feel the intent is for a betterment, right? And it will be shown if your intent is pure. Somehow the way you say it, somehow the way you express it, people can also feel it, right? So that's one. Second, what I also learned, I think a lot of times, a lot of cases, women feel like they have to choose between being a career woman or then being a good mom, for example, right? I've gone through a lot of discussions with my team members that has this dilemma, for example. Even recently, like last week, I still have this kind of conversation. But what I will say, honestly, based on my personal experience, I think ambition and having a meaningful life can go hand in hand. But the way it can be done is when the values that matters to you also are aligned with the kind of work that you are doing. So you get that fulfillment and you come home as a content person because knowing what you do matters, for example. Then you come back as, you know, being a fulfilled mom. Then you are ready to also share and extend your love, even when you're tired, for example. But on the other hand, as well, how goes hand in hand is when things get so hard at work, for example, because every now and then it will, then you come home, you see your beloved ones, then they are happy, they're healthy, they are well fed, they have roof over their heads. Then you know that problem at work, I'll get to it and I'll get through it, right? But those people who truly matters are still doing okay. So all is well with the world. Let's face it another day and hug them, kiss them, and you are recharged. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's sort of like fulfilling each other's battery, if that makes sense. Now, the third thing that I'm going to say is this applies for both being a mom as well as being a people leader that I truly believe in. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So sometimes you thought being a leader, I need to know everything. Or being a parent, I know everything because I've lived much longer than you, right? But what your children cares the most is, do you actually love me, mom? Like if I make mistakes, will you just punish me or you will try to understand first why it happens and then help me to fix it accordingly and still accept me despite the mistakes I make, right? The same thing with work, in a way. You can be the smartest person in the room and whatever. They may see it from your title, they may see it from your CVs and whatnot, right? But if they don't feel that you actually care about them, they will not genuinely want to follow you or trust you as their leader, right? So I think building that genuine, authentic relationship and presence is a lot more important than just showing what you can bring into the table when it comes to being a people leader. Yeah, I guess that will be my overall point of view, and hopefully some words of advice to all the other women out there who is trying to navigate their way as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And
yes. I believe that would inspire everyone, especially the women who's listening to our podcast today. Fibri.
can I just add one more thing? Sorry,
Yeah, sure,
suddenly
sure.
it
Go
came
ahead.
up to my mind. I think at the end, what matters the most is to make sure. I may repeat this several times throughout this conversation, but to make sure you know your values, you know what truly matters for you, bring your voice and be authentic, right? And show your best, right? But at the end, throughout this journey, I think I learned that it doesn't matter what you have achieved. What truly matters is what kind of person are you becoming throughout this journey. When you look into the mirror and see the deepest side of yourself that only you know, do you like that person looking back to you from that mirror? If the answer is yes, then I think you got it figured out.
Yeah. So nothing is impossible.
Nothing is impossible.
Yes, I agree. Fibri, thank you so much for today's conversation. I learned so much from you, and from your experience as a leader and as a mother herself. It's very impactful. It's very it shows that women can do everything that we want. We can be anything that we want. So we don't have to stop at one point. We can just move forward with everything.
Yeah. The key is prioritization.
Yeah,
And
and
we
love
can have
yourself.
another chat about that.
Yes, and we have to love ourselves more, actually.
Don't forget
Yes.
to prioritize yourself every now and then, because that's what also help you to stay sane.
And yes, I agree. Thank you so much, Fibri, for sharing
You're
your insights and
welcome.
experience with us today. So, everyone, we're also excited to have Fibri as one of the panelists at upcoming second annual CX Global Summit Indonesia 2026, happening this 9 April in Jakarta, where she will be joining a panel discussion entitled Personalization versus Privacy, Striking the Right Balance. To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning into the Fortinus Global Podcast Series. If you would like to hear more conversations with industry leaders shaping the future of customer experience and business transformation, stay tuned for our upcoming episodes. Thank you so much, Riri, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And yes, women empowerment is very nice. Thank you so much for
You're
everything,
welcome.
Fibri. See you at the event. And for everyone, see you guys at the event.